Hi, Sarah Childress back with you, and I just last week finished a documentary filmmaking seminar with a group of 14 and 15-year-olds, and I wanted to share with you some of the information that I shared with them. And that information involved documentary film types, which Bill Nichols had defined in his important book, Introduction to Documentary. So let's dive in. The 6 doc types are expository, observational, participatory, performative, poetic, and reflexive. For a long time, expository docs were really the name of the game. If you saw a documentary in school or you saw one on PBS, you were most likely to see an expository documentary. These are also the docs that people tend to think of when they think about what a documentary is, because these documentaries really are used to educate and or to persuade, and they are built to tell viewers something true about the world. Ironically, these films actually don't really rely on the power of film to do their education and their persuasion. They rely on words to share this information, and that's why a voiceover narrator is active in telling viewers what they're seeing, captioning the images. Footage is really just evidence. It shows us what we're being told, proving to us that what we're being told is true, but the images themselves aren't really doing the work. It's the words that are the propulsion behind the film and what the film is doing. And that's why voiceover narrators are very carefully chosen. Usually they're men, and they're men with kind of deep, resonant, authoritative voices who can speak with that kind of voice of God that lends authority to the statements being made, but that also has an element of warmth and accessibility. It's a benevolent God who's telling you these things. To demonstrate each documentary film type, I'll be using 3 clips. Well, I hope I'll be using 3 clips if YouTube lets me use the clips that I've chosen. But if it doesn't, I'll tell you which film I would have been drawing from, so you can hopefully go and find it on your own. To introduce you to expository, I'll be using March of the Penguins. And as you're watching this clip, I'd love for you to think about a few things. One would be how Morgan Freeman's voice really embodies that benevolent voice of God I mentioned earlier. The other is to think about the power of words rather than images to shape your understanding of what you're seeing. Also, I'd love for you to notice how anthropomorphizing the language is, how it invites us to project emotions or specific thoughts onto these penguins and to interpret what they're doing in very specific ways, in ways that may or may not be truthful in an objective sense. Just as I suspected, March of the Penguins is actually causing my video to be blocked in several countries, including Canada, which means my aunt can't watch it. So I'm going to remove this clip, but you can still find it, ironically, on YouTube if you just look for March of the Penguins Protecting the Egg. Next up, we have All Light Everywhere. And in this clip, I'd love for you to think about how the voice of God is an updated voice of God. It's almost a kind of Sirification, as in Siri, or a lexification of the narrator, which taps into our now more familiar disembodied voice, which is for us now the gateway to information. Also, you'll see here, just as you did in March of the Penguins, how words shape our interpretation and understanding of images, and also how the images have been chosen very specifically to provide visual evidence for the points being made in basically the spoken essay. And the theme of that particular essay really is about exploring the direct relationship between innovations in weaponry and filmmaking technology.
In 1871, with the world preparing for the transit of Venus, Jules Janssen unveiled a new invention that he hoped would address the issues facing accurate measurement of the solar parallax. Janssen called his invention the photographic revolver. The design of Janssen's revolver was partly inspired by the Gatling gun, a semi-automatic machine gun that was first introduced on the battlefields of the American Civil War. The gun's inventor, Dr. Samuel Gatling, dreamt his gun would drastically reduce the bloodshed of war. By replacing human soldiers with automatic machines, he thought, fewer soldiers would be needed to fight. Janssen's revolver applied automation to observation. The operator loads the camera with a circular plate of film. When activated, the plate is exposed at regular intervals. The human operator is removed from the act of observation. There are no original plates of the 1874 transit left in existence. This sequence, made by Janssen using a miniature model of Venus and the Sun, was filmed over 20 years before the Lumiere brothers would release their own version of the movie camera. Many consider this sequence to be the first movie ever made.
And last but not least, for expository, we have 69, The Saga of Danny Hernandez. And in this particular clip, you'll see yet another riff on the voice of God, which is the voice of the filmmaker. And in this moment where he shifts from participatory, which we'll be learning about in just a moment, to expository as a way to more directly shape our understanding of what we're seeing, of the information that we're taking in. Because by doing this move, by moving to expository, he leaves interpretation less up to us and basically guides us more directly to an understanding of his points. So it becomes really a way of saying, here's my point, and here's why the point I'm making is true, with that being supported by the visual evidence that we're seeing.
We here, bro. We live with it.
Don't come out there with that or you gonna get popped like a willy, you heard?
Being gang affiliated doesn't necessarily mean you're a criminal. Chanel, Seiko, and Otto had been creating a company called Treyway Entertainment. And when Danny entered their lives, Treyway finally got on the radar of the hip-hop world. But the Treyway crew quickly became a gateway for Danny to meet a larger family.
What was the name of the gang that you were a member of?
The 9 Trey Bloods.
The East Coast set of the notorious Los Angeles street gang was formed in Rikers Island in 1993. The gang has been linked to gun smuggling, human trafficking, armed robberies, and heroin sales, and considered an organized criminal enterprise, subject to the same racketeering laws as the mafia. Now that Danny was starting to make money from streams, concerts, and appearances, he could be the gang's cash cow. And the 9 Trey Bloods gave Danny something that Loaf Music and Scum Gang never could. They could back up his online trolling with real-life muscle.
Now we get to observational. It's one of my favorite types because it really does rely on the power of film to communicate a lot of different information on a lot of different levels, but it also relies on a filmmaker who has a really good instinct. Observational filmmakers need to know where to go and where to be and who to focus on and what to focus on, as well as how to have patience, how to let things play out. Most of them tend to involve filmmakers who follow people as they go about their daily lives. So they're either focusing on the people in their experiences or the experiences that the people are creating. The filmmakers are really observers. They're not participants. I mean, that's an important distinction to make. And that's why this particular documentary type is often called fly-on-the-wall documentary, because the filmmakers are just kind of making a record of what happened. But obviously, documentaries are not documents. So the filmmakers are interpreting events and experiences as they go in order to produce that kind of signification. Filmmakers use associations between the shots to provide structure to the film. Usually that structure involves a kind of a cause-effect exploration. To explain what I mean, it's helpful to think about actually the Maysles brothers. Often in their films, which include Salesman, Grey Gardens, Give Me Shelter, they will begin their films with a particular kind of effect. By that I mean an issue, a question, a situation. And then the bulk of the film will either be structured according to what we might call a causal chronology, or a series of scenes or moments that provide the viewer with a sense of what might be the causes behind that particular effect. And then usually the film will conclude with a particularly insightful moment or spoken interaction or interlude that somehow encapsulates the kind of thematic push of the film. Okay, observational docs thrive on access, and with that access comes a kind of presumption of intimacy, and especially when filmmaking takes place in intimate spaces or insider spaces. But though intimacy might seem like a more, for lack of a better word, loving and supportive position, these observational docs actually invite us to think about the viewing positions that the camera and the editing actually take within these intimate spaces. So is the camera, which is our avatar, really an intimate within the action? or a kind of distanced observer. And so one of the ways that you can sort of get a handle on that feeling, it's almost like a timbre of the visual image, is to think about, am I a sort of warm and supportive participant, or am I a cool and distant and possibly critical observer? And so this is something especially to think about when you're watching the first two clips. And for the last clip, I'd love for you to think about how the presence of the filmmaker and the camera actually can shape what's happening within the clip. Basically, that the presence of the filmmaker changes the action that's taking place, so that it's no longer sort of pure and unfettered, but rather in a way it's kind of performed for the filmmaker and for the camera. So that even though we might think of observational as non-participatory and non-intrusive, just having a camera around the action has the potential to change the nature of the action and the nature of the people and what they do and what they say. So see if you can catch that in the third clip.
Let's stand to our feet. Hallelujah. I need you to get serious with God. Say, God, I'm here to be trained. I'm here for an education. I'm willing, God. I'll do what you want me to do. I'll say what you want me to say. In Jesus' name. Amen. If you don't open your mouth, the Holy Spirit can't talk. All right, now I want everyone to raise your hands and we're going to pray in tongues. Hallelujah. Let's do it. Oh, we love you, Jesus. So koho rashada kahala busida. Lo rashada kahala busida. Let the Holy Spirit fall. He's here. Feel his power. Feel his power. This is you talking. And the Holy Spirit is just going to whisper in your ear what to say. You have the answer. Don't stop. Don't stop. This is the greatest day of your life next to the day you got saved.
I got a message from somebody saying that you have an amazing voice. Then somebody at the bottom said, did you see, I want to pronounce his name correctly, but Kudeman, I think that's how you pronounce it. Did you see his remake of your song? And I'm like, what?
But you know him?
No.
Oh, you don't even know him?
Mm-mm.
Stop.
No, I don't know the man.
Really?
I just be amazed when people think I'm interested. Like, oh, you got me interested.
That's cool.
New York Times? Really? Really, bro?
Did he say your name?
No, he just said, musician does not seek permission to use snippets from performance clips, but has not had any complaints as far as he and his manager are aware. Oh, and it mentioned my thing. Give it up. That's so awesome. I think that's that. There it is, right here. This song is
that's
called,
me.
I don't know, maybe it'll be called Give It Up, because that's like the, can you make it big? Like this, the chorus. Okay, so y'all ready? They said I'm going viral. New York Times. New York Times, man. This is so awesome. This is so awesome right now.
Oh my God!
You got the water dirty, man. Woo! This is nice, man. This is the life. Where I'm from, I ain't never want to go to class. I wasn't never in class.
At home in high school?
Hey, as soon as I get in there, hey, I go to the bathroom. Yeah. It is over with. It's over with. Sometimes I used to get bad where I just leave and go home.
Bro, I was in summer school from 7th grade to the 12th. Tell me, I was in summer school all my high school, bro. Man, come on, bro.
Juke opened my eyes. Scuba opened my eyes.
So
This
big,
wide, bro. Yeah, learn my lesson. Lesson well learned, too. Especially here.
They said y'all learn in Mississippi.
They said we don't do nothing in Mississippi.
Yeah, they said y'all learn.
They said we don't do nothing in Mississippi.
All y'all do is eat.
Yo, they said we just fat ass, dumb ass country folk. That up, ain't it? Yeah.
Now, participatory. I mentioned earlier that expository was the name of the game in doc, and now it seems like participatory is that kind of standard or modus operandi, because most of the documentaries that I see now are participatory or include participatory elements. Participatory docs are interview-based. They involve the active and conscious participation of others. So basically, you as a filmmaker want to find something out or learn something, so you ask people who know something about that something what they know about it. Some to many participatory docs have what we might call an essay structure. They begin with a kind of compressed introduction that teases up the main question or issue or hypothesis that's driving this exploration, and then the body, or the bulk of the film, will involve interviews or interactions that share important information or evidence that helps to answer the question or elaborate the hypothesis or the primary claim. And then there's a conclusion that, like the best conclusions, isn't a summary, but instead really thinks about the insights or the significance of what has been discovered. As happens with pretty much anything you're ever trying to categorize, there is no such thing as a thing or a film that is solely one category or of one category, especially now where genres and types actually blend with one another. So often you'll see blends of participatory and observational. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because you'll see some of the structural elements of observational docs showing up in participatory and vice versa. Also, when we think about participatory or observational docs that focus on a person, for example, instead of this kind of essay structure, you'll also see them follow a 3-act structure, which tends to structure most fiction film. That involves introduction and then crisis into climax, and then, if not resolution, then at least a form of something we can take away from this experience. These 3 clips from participatory documentaries are pretty self-explanatory, but as you're watching them, I'd love for you to think about how the various interviews, which represent various perspectives, are actually put into the service of supporting one particular perspective and one particular point of view, which is that of the filmmaker. And so it's not that the participants in the documentary would necessarily disagree with the overall point or the multiple points that the filmmaker is making. It's just that I wanted to point out the limitations of the concept of participatory, which seems to indicate kind of a melding or merging or an intersection of various agencies and perspectives, but it actually is the reworking and the representation of these multiple narratives and perspectives in the service of one overarching narrative and one overarching perspective, which is that of the filmmaker.
It's time for the NBA to stop pretending. Call it the TBA.
These are guys who have never had to follow the rules. They are prima donna athletes.
I just couldn't believe what was going on.
It's an iconic brawl.
Unprofessional. Absolutely unprofessional.
It's hard to explain to people from suburban America.
Ron Artest just went nuts. He does have psychological problems.
Steven Jackson deserved the most severe penalty of all.
I'm never talking about this shit again. Can you get that on camera?
It was like way too much pressure for me. I felt I was trying to escape. I was trying to find any way to escape.
Pressure on the NBA to clean up its ranks, send a message that these guys are not a bunch of thugs.
If you actually knew what happened, you actually knew the effects that it had on everybody, you wouldn't even be asking questions.
I want the story out there. Like, what happened? Go frame by frame.
Show people all the footage. And then at the end of the day, when it's told, you make your own conclusion on what it is.
I got in a lot of trouble with some of the students for trying to integrate it. They told me, what are you doing? It's not the parents, it is us. We don't want it together and you need to stop trying to do this. I got cussed out. I talked to my boyfriend and I said, let's just go to both. But when I went to buy the tickets to the white prom, I was not allowed. I was told that if my date was gonna be black, he wouldn't be let in. So we just went to the black prom.
I feel like the rest of the world will look at this like, what in the hell? They go to school together, they play basketball together, they cheerlead together, they're best friends. You know, it's happening everywhere. Why can't it happen in a small town like this?
This community and this school system is fine like it is. We don't want to change it. We want to live the way our grandparents lived and the way our great-grandparents lived. Why change something that has worked? Just leave it alone.
And then even with the little kids, in elementary school, they pick black elementary girl and a white elementary girl. They even make the little kids be segregated. It's so sad. I didn't even notice it. The little kids don't even know, but they're making them, you know, learn that you are black, you are white. It's sad. I didn't even notice that.
Until just now?
Yeah, I guess I didn't recognize it till now that they are actually teaching kids to be, you know, segregated, to be black, be white. No, be a color instead of a person. Be your color, act your color. Know your place.
I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but when I got here, I was on kind of the end of my ropes. I found this place on Craigslist. I was like, man, I ain't never done this shit before. What the f? Let's go. And now, look at me. I'm doing tiger shows.
I've been the manager of the GW Zoo for 14 years now. Most of the staff was unique. That's what I thought was really, really cool about this zoo. And then there's Joe.
Do the dance, the dance, the dance, the dance. I love you so much.
The people who worked for Joe were misfits, and they were a family. It was a place where all these misfits could come together and be with the king of misfits who reigned over them.
Now we get to performative docs, which we might think of as perhaps the most audacious documentary type. In performative docs, the filmmaker appears in the film as the protagonist. They're the ones driving the action, feeling the feelings, making sense of situations, and usually they do this by creating or putting themselves into experiences that reveal some truth about the world. This is a pretty rough breakdown, but we can think about performative docs as falling into two categories. In some, filmmakers will take us along with them as they undergo a process so we can experience that process along with them or experience their experience of the process as they go through it. A doc like that would be Morgan Spurlock's Super Size Me. Others, like Michael Moore and Sacha Baron Cohen, will explore a particular issue by creating absurd or provocative situations to show really the implications and the resonance of those issues. What I really enjoy about their work in particular is how they use the surreal to get to the real. And by that I mean not only the way they hold up kind of a carnival funhouse mirror in order to reflect back some kind of truth that we might not have seen, but also the way in which they bring out or bring into situations the dark, usually hidden drives, kind of like tapping into the id of these situations and the participants in these situations to show really what's going on and how things work. Regardless of the approach, these films often take on a process structure or have process elements. We're either experiencing the experience or we're experiencing a kind of ratcheting up of more and more provocative, for lack of a better word, and I don't mean this as a pejorative, like stunts. It's a way of kind of intensifying what's happening so that there's a climactic moment or a climactic opportunity that really can resonate both in terms of truth, but also in terms of emotional appeals to viewers. So in that sense, as I mentioned earlier, these films can use kind of the documentary essay structure or a 3-act structure that involves introduction and then crisis into climax and then a form of something we can take away from this experience. Okay, these performative docs speak for themselves, so enjoy.
I asked the boys if they'd like to go to Kmart to return the merchandise.
Yes. Can you turn the camera off, please? We're here. Oh no, we're here to see Mr. Conway,
Okay,
the chairman.
Turn the camera off while you're in the building until I get clearance for you to turn it back.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Okay, turn it off. Yeah.
Hi, Michael.
Hi. How are you?
I'm Mary Lorenz. I'm Director of Media Relations for Kmart.
Oh, good. All right. Good.
How can I help you today?
Well, I'm here today. This is Richard Castaldo.
Richard, nice to meet you.
And this is Mark Taylor.
Mark.
And they're students from Columbine High School. They were shot at Columbine in the massacre with bullets from Kmart.
You came a long way.
Yes,
all the way from Colorado.
Yeah, I just thinking it. Since you stopped selling the handguns and all, and they kind of make sense to stop selling the bullets too.
Our request is that you get rid of the 9mm bullets and that you don't sell them in a store completely.
We do carry, you probably are aware of Kmart, hopefully you're shoppers of our stores, that we do only carry, sporting firearms and the accessories that go with the hunting sport. And we'll certainly take your message to our chairman and CEO, Chuck Conaway. He's not here today.
He's not here today?
He's not here actually this whole week.
He's not at all during the week. Do you have a limit on the number of bullets, ammunition that people can purchase?
I can't answer these questions for you. I'm not the merchandiser who places those products in our stores.
Speak to that person.
But I can get answers to those questions for you if you would like to leave your card, and I can get those answers.
No, we don't want to leave a card. Let me just be blunt. The reason why we can't take a card and come back is because Mark here, he's got a Kmart bullet just an inch away, right?
Yeah.
From your aorta.
In between my aorta and spine.
In between your aorta and spine.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're still able to stand.
And I told them that somebody here would listen. Somebody here would take the request seriously. Not just a PR person, but somebody who has some authority and can answer some of the questions that they want answered.
Of course, every picture that we get back from the terrorists or anything else, the Muslims, they look like you. Black hair and black mustache.
Yes.
Shave that dadgum mustache off so you're not so conspicuous. So you look like maybe an Italian or something.
Yes.
As far as from people looking at you. I see a lot of people and I think there's a dadgum Muslim. I wonder what kind of bomb he's got strapped to him.
Yes.
And you probably aren't a Muslim. Maybe that's not your religion.
No, I am a Kazakh. I follow the hawk.
But you look like one of them. This thing gets over with, and when we win it and kick the butts over there,
yes,
and all of them son of a butts hanging from the gallows,
yes,
by that time you will have proven yourself and they'll understand you'll be accepted. Take care.
Thank you.
I ain't gonna kiss you.
No, why not?
The people that do the kissing over here are the ones that float around like that.
Are they all alone?
Yeah, stay away from them that kiss.
Okay.
You don't want nobody kissing.
In my country, they take them and they take them to jail and finish
Take
them.
them out and hang them.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to get done here.
High five.
Thank you.
Hello, may I help you?
Yeah, could I get the double quarter pounder with cheese meal?
Large or supersize?
I think I'm gonna have to go supersize. Look at that. Look at that Coke. That barely fits in there. Oh, shit. I'm gonna, look at that. Look at how big that thing is. Look how big that French fry is. That thing is like 4 feet tall. Double quarter pounder with cheese. More calories than anything. There it is. A little bit of heaven. Mmm. That's a lot of food, man. I'll tell you what. You get all that supersized stuff? That stuff gets supersized? Man, look at that. I just I'm not even halfway done with those fries. Not even halfway. It's like a workout. See, now's the time of the meal when you start getting the McStomach ache. You start getting the McTummy, you get the McGurgles in there, you get the McBrick, and you get the McStomach ache. Right now I got some McGas that's rocking. My arm.
Are you sweating there?
My arms, I feel like I got some McSweats going. My arms got the McTwitches going in here from all the sugar that's going in my body right now. I'm feeling a little McCrazy. Oh. Just give me a minute.
I'm in pure McDonald heaven.
This is gonna be you, like, after every meal.
Oh. I'm dying.
Oh, God, that's so nasty. Oh, it's making me puke.
You right? Yeah.
Oh, the poetic type. It's a favorite type for me because, like Observational, these are very filmy films. They really do rely on the power of film to communicate on lots of different levels. But one of the things that I really love about Poetic is how you can almost get, I know this is going to sound crazy, but like a heart-to-heart connection, a soul-to-soul connection. Poetic documentaries tend to really work on an emotional level, on a feeling level. Poetic docs tend to be structured in different ways than the other types of docs. And what I mean by rhythmic editing is that the filmmakers will really rely on the tempo of editing to elicit or to inspire a particular kind of feeling within the viewer. Editing rhythm is really determined by shot length. So a longer take will produce a slower, more meditative kind of tempo, whereas short shot lengths will create a more urgent, driving sort of a feeling, almost as if it was a heartbeat or a heart beating really fast. I don't know why I thought that was funny, but I think that laugh partially comes from just the delight that I feel in that kind of like plugging into a film on a really visceral level. And what I mean by abstract visuals, I mean, yes, the visuals in certain poetic films can be abstract or abstracted, but one of the things that I love about poetic films and poetic filmmakers is their eye. So I was talking about instinct when it comes to observational, but for poetry, it's all about the eye, and it's also all about being present and attuned to the world in a really attentive way. They notice details that others miss, and by bringing our attention to these details, show us how beautiful the world is. And I think that's really it. Maybe it's just me, but I can feel love in poetic films. A love of the world, a love of film, a love of viewers. It's something that's really palpable. I think it was my own self-reflection about my viewing experiences of poetic docs that kind of drove me to come up with this really sort of out there idea about poetic films, in that many, especially early poetic documentaries, there aren't noticeable or explicit on-screen protagonist. And so that's why I like to think about how poetic documentaries actually situate the viewer as the protagonist, because really it's all about our experience. I mean, yeah, poetic doc filmmakers are interested in sharing an experience, but really the sharing of that experience is done in such a way as to inspire change or development within the viewer, so that after we watch their film, we have either a new emotional or a new intellectual understanding about the world. It's hard to cut up a poetic doc and have it share its experience with you, but here's a taste of Joris Ivan's Rain. Now, it's important to remember when you're watching this short clip that Rain essentially tells the story of the before, during, and after of a rain shower, and Joris Ivans really wanted viewers to have what we might call a haptic or almost like a tactile sense of what it is to be caught in the rainstorm. So see if you can imagine the feeling of what it is to be in a rain shower in Amsterdam in 1929. Now, with these next two films, I've taken some poetic license. The next one that you're going to see is a montage sequence drawn from a fiction film, but a fiction film about very real issues, and that's The Last Black Man in San Francisco. This beautiful, experiential, poetic moment comes relatively early on in the film, and it always struck me as being really sort of a small poetic documentary, sort of placed in the middle of this larger film. And the great thing about this montage is that even if you haven't seen The Last Black Man in San Francisco, it really does give you a very real and tangible sense of the main characters, of their situation, of the challenges that they face, and really the goals that they want to achieve. It's a wonderful kind of montage representation of the theme of the film, done in a very crisp but very elegant, like 3 or so minutes. Now, the next one is from a series that I dearly love, and though the films in these series seem to be expository, they're actually, I believe, coming from a very poetic sensibility. The episodes are really more ruminations and film essays that Wilson creates based on the constant observations that he makes in, of, and about New York City. And what he does is he takes all of these small, precious details that make New York a truly unique place and a unique living experience. And he really, that's the source material for these essays, the source material for these observations and interpretations. So without the poetry, without the eye, these essays really wouldn't be possible. So I hope you enjoy and I hope you check it out.
Final frontier of manifest destiny. Last edge of the city. Man, 2 steps further, you'll be drinking that filthy salt water. But we built these ships, dredged these canals, into San Francisco they never knew existed. Something new. these homes. Their eyes, their pointed brims. We move as they move. Our sweat soaked in the wood, gilded in our image. This is our home. Our home. Our home.
The average scaffold is made of a few simple elements. Your main vertical pole is called the standard, or sometimes the upright. These are usually made of steel or aluminum, and
And last but not least are the reflexive films. Reflexive docs are also very filmy films, but filmy in the sense that they're very meta. They're really about making film or the making of film. And so as in performative docs, the filmmakers are usually the protagonists or have a very explicit on-screen role, but the process and or the experience that they're going through usually always, or I might as well say always, involves the making of the film. The significance of what is discovered through this particular process and experience really has to do with what the act of filmmaking or the explicit act of creating a narrative will reveal to us about lives, memories, histories, and the world. These films and filmmakers really see filmmaking as a revelatory process. Though reflexive films with their meta natures might seem, highbrow or intellectual pursuits, in the hands of these talented and sensitive filmmakers, we can see how this meta mode can produce profoundly affecting revelations with universal appeal.
Test 1, 2. I had a great time at the costume ball with Claudia. I have to be quiet, though, because my father's asleep upstairs, and, I think he already has enough questions about the validity of my film project without seeing me dressed up like this, talking to my own camera. So I have to be quiet. Tonight I have to decide also whether I'm going to stay here in Charlotte or continue to retrace Sherman's route through the South as I'd originally planned to do. I could stay here in Charlotte and spend some time filming my sister, film Claudia, get to know Claudia better. If she could teach me to roller skate. I like Claudia, and I'm infatuated with Pat Rendleman, and I guess in many ways I'm still in love with Anne, the woman up in New York. It's all very confusing to me. I don't know what to do right now.
I hope you'll explain to me sometime what all this is that you're trying to do.
Huh?
With 2 cameras and me recording it visually and...
What about it?
It's not the normal way of doing it, is it?
I don't know. We've told you it's a documentary, but it's an interrogation process.
What?
It's an interrogation process that we've set up.
Okay.
I honestly need pills.
Do you really?
I'm so nervous.
Are you really?
My teeth okay?
I feel like I'm sweating.
How far down? What's my frame?
Okay.
How are my breasts? Okay, showtime.
And I told you to be patient, and I told you to be fine, and I told you to be balanced, and I told you to be kind, and now all your love is wasted, and then who the hell was I? And I'm breaking at the bridges, and at the end of all your lies.
Me? Do you want me? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, Dad, so we can start anytime. Are you rolling? Yeah.
Okay. We're off.
Just the idea that I might ever lose this man is too much to bear. He's my dad. He's such an open, accepting person. That's who you want for a father. And that's who I have, who I've always had, my whole life. But now it's upon us, the beginning of his disappearance. And we're not accepting it. He's a psychiatrist. I'm a camera person. I suggested we make a movie about him dying. He said yes.